Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. Today is Wednesday, September 20th, 2023. I'm your host, Jon Jeune, and of course, got my guy with me, Greg Pennamon. Greg, how we doing?
Doing well. Plugged into this week 3. Excited because Giants get to start it off. Either good or bad news. We'll see. We'll find out tomorrow. But, at least I can, focus on just football on everyone else on Sunday. And we can get our teams out the way.
Yeah, hopefully the Giants, can either get it started or
cover.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
A goal for some people. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
A goal for some people. Obviously, this is our Thursday night football preview. We're obviously going to give out our streams of the week as we do every Wednesday. And we're also going to cover all the 1 p.m. games. So make sure you got your seatbelt strapped and you're in for the long haul because, we got you covered. So whether you're watching live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. Just make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff so you can follow along with the show. If you are live with us, just make sure you jump in the chat, ask some questions, interact with us a little bit. We like to have some fun here. So without further ado, Greg, let's jump into the game that you were talking about. And, Thursday night football, not typically always fun, and this one doesn't look like it's a fun one. As the 1-1 New York Giants travel to Santa Clara, California, to take on the 2-0 San Francisco 49ers. This game has a 44.5-point total according to FanDuel Sportsbook, where the San Francisco 49ers are 10-point favorites. Now, in terms of the injuries there, Saquon Barkley, according to Brian Daboll, game time decision. Sure, Brian. Yeah.
Sure. That was all for scouting and all of that. Trying to make sure the San Fran focus on something else, maybe.
Because San Fran, they're really concerned that Saquon Barkley is going to play coming off a high ankle sprain and be effective if he does play. So, anyway, that being said, Greg, our resident Giants fan, where are you going with this matchup, sir?
This matchup, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take San Fran to cover and San Fran to win.
And I see it the same way here. I am taking the San Fran to cover. I'm taking the under, taking San Fran to cover, San Fran to win. So that being said, is there a Giant, assuming that Saquon Barkley does not play and Darren Waller plays tight end, so he's eliminated from this little scenario here, is there a Giant that you're even willing to play? Daniel Jones had the QB1 of the week last week. Are you interested at all in playing him, or what's going on here?
So if you're making the argument to play Daniel Jones in this tough matchup, you're banking on him getting a safe floor with those legs, for sure. I think Saquon helps him, especially in the passing game, especially getting some completions, getting down the field. So that takes that away. Matt Breida really doesn't add too much of that for him. They'll probably focus in on Darren Waller and the other receivers because there's no Saquon. So I would bank on avoiding the matchup. I think he's could be a bench candidate this week. But his cap would be him getting kind of that borderline QB1 because he's fallen into that many times in many bad matchups before, just with his legs.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with Daniel Jones, is that he can fall into a QB1 week because of his legs. Literally, he fell into a QB1 week on Thursday Night Football when they played the Eagles a couple years back. Literally, he fell.
He literally fell,
yeah. But in all seriousness, I think, and I could get in trouble for saying this, he's like, because of his legs, he's very borderline QB1.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like QB 15, QB 16, which then makes him in play for me in 2 quarterback leagues because you are hoping that he does get the rushing touchdown, or you're hoping that he does make something happen with his legs, get enough yards there. And I'm hoping, okay, any interest in Matt Breida there as an RB3, right? Like desperation flex, RB3. I mean, you got to put somebody in that running back slot sometimes. So
I know. Give me Craig Reynolds. Give me give me maybe even Kendra Miller, depending on the situation this week. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of Matt Breida last year without some games without Saquon. He really didn't do much, honestly. RB3 is I think best case scenario. Low end RB3.
Yeah, it's gonna be really tough. I mean, I'm trying to see what guys I would even have like around a Matt Breida this week. I mean, I'm assuming you're going Jerome Ford over Matt Breida.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm assuming you're going
Kareem Hunt.
Okay, Kareem Hunt. You would go Kareem Hunt over Matt Breida.
He doesn't need. I mean, game shape. I would assume he needs to get into that. But as far as knowing the system and knowing everything, he knows that already. So it's not like he needs a full training camp to get going.
I personally would go Matt Breida in that situation. I mean, you could be right, man, but Kareem, it's like I can't take a guy that signed off the street like a day ago and be like, yeah.
Well, taking from like what you sometimes say, like we're comparing like trash to trash at this point. Like it's like 4 points to 6 points here, like around that area, as far as the running back. You're thinking on Matt Breida getting a touchdown. He had one last year, one rushing touchdown. Saquon did play a majority of the season. He was hurt a little bit, but
I mean, I'm looking at the listed names I have of guys behind a Matt Breida, and it's they're really guys that you really don't want to play. I mean,
right.
Okay, Joshua Kelly, I think you would play because he's going to get volume. They play Minnesota, so you're like, okay, that's great. Yeah. But like Antonio Gibson,
oh, that's tough. That's tough. Right. I think I'd go with Matt Breida, I guess, in this case.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So chances are, I mean, the main thing is we really don't want to play Matt Breida. If you have to, like, just stick your nose and do it. Any interest? I'm gonna throw this name out here, and I know you've been a believer. You've been banging the drum a little bit, especially as a Giants fan. Jalen Hyatt. Is there anything there?
They show some flashes of what he can do in his deep play activity. I think as far as a dart throw, I think he's in that consideration for a deeper league flex. Just because I think they're gonna have to. The game plan should be no Saquon, no. I mean, Matt Breida might establish the run a little bit, but we gotta get the ball down the field. So starts with Hyatt. Waller and hopefully Jalen Hyatt. So I think he's in that wide receiver 3 category this week.
Yeah, I think he's got us like, and this is again, rational coaching is a fallacy. We say this all the time. Like, you think that a coach would realize, like, hey, our 3rd round pick was our leading receiver on 2 receptions last week. We're missing by far, not even a question, like our best offensive weapon.
Yep.
We need to find a way to get the ball down the field and score some points. So let's go with the kid. Like, that's where my brain is going. Yeah. And I've talked myself into thinking Jalen Hyatt is like a half decent dart throw in deeper leagues. Again, I'm not talking about your average like 12 team, like 2 running backs, 2 receivers and a flex, like not that. But if you're in a team, 14 team league, or you play 3 wide receivers and 2 flexes and 2 running backs, like you're in a deep league like that, or you're even playing DFS on Thursday night, like I think you have to have some exposure to Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah, I agree.
San Fran side, obviously the main question there is really just Brandon Ayuk and his availability, he's expected to be a game time decision. I'm just gonna go out on a limb. I don't think he plays. He tried to gut through a shoulder injury, and even if he does play, like I'm probably gonna have him as like a wide receiver 3 or 4, just because when you got a shoulder injury, like sometimes you can't even lift your arm above your head. So how are you gonna extend to catch a pass, right? So
Yeah, and the way the Giants' rush defense looks like, they're not even going to need him, honestly. McCaffrey is going to run all over this offense defensive line and his defense. James Conner last week killed Tony Pollard, did what he had to do in his short yard activity, so it's going to be a problem.
yeah. So that being said, fire up your CMC as an RB1. I like Deebo Samuel to finish as a high end wide receiver 2, potentially even as a wide receiver 1 if he does get in the end zone. I think with Ayuk potentially limited, Kittle bounces back potentially into the tight end 1 realm. I mean, I know he's been disappointing through 2 weeks, but I think we got a bounce back game from him, especially when you consider what Zach Ertz was able to do against the Giants last week.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else you want to add on this game or the Niners side in general, or?
No, maybe some Elijah Mitchell. We'll get some of him in this game as well. So I will keep an eye on that. Maybe him over Matt Breida. I'm just saying.
Garbage time. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I do think, and I'm glad you brought that up, because like we always say with Thursday night players, you want to make sure you have them in your flex, or not in your flex, get them out of your flex, put them in to a running back, wide receiver, tight end slot, quarterback slot if you're in super flex. But the other thing is, and we talked about this, and I'm never going to take an injury lap for a victory, especially when it's not one of my favorite players in the league, in Nick Chubb. But we talked about it on Monday night, or Monday afternoon, rather. We were recording at 3 p.m. live, and we said, hey, if you got the roster spot, go pick up a Jerome Ford, like right now. Like if you have that roster spot available to you. And it's the same thing with Thursday Night Football. It's actually even a little bit better because you get to see it right away, right? Like, pick up Elijah Mitchell. I know he's been dropped. He played zero offensive snaps last week. Shoot, I dropped him in leagues because I knew, like, he played 0 snaps. People probably aren't going to be looking for him. But best believe, before this Thursday night game comes, Elijah Mitchell's on my roster.
Yeah.
If he's available, because he is in one of the most running back friendly offenses that there is, and we know what this offense looks like without Christian McCaffrey. It becomes extremely traditional. Elijah Mitchell is going to get 20 to 25 touches a game if that were to happen. And again, I'm not sitting here hoping CMC gets hurt, but we're playing the game of probability. Running backs,
it is what it is. Yeah,
right. It is what it is. It's bound to happen at some point during the season. And in those island games, those primetime games, it's a little bit easier because you have the ability to either pick him up before the game starts and then drop him on the Thursday night game, or after the Thursday night game concludes, or you go ahead and you pick up a Jerome Ford or some other running back prior to the start of Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, and then hey, if nothing happens, you go ahead and just drop them. If an injury does happen like it did to Nick Chubb, you're not running out trying to spend, an excessive amount of fab to acquire Jerome Ford because he's already on your roster.
All right. Yeah. No, it's great advice.
All right, Greg, it's time for those bold predictions. And my bold prediction, I'll start here. I got 2 because I always have 2. And naturally, I want to parlay them. Cook the books. I want to parlay them together. But a George Kittle anytime touchdown.
Okay.
It's plus 190 on FanDuel Sportsbook right now. And I'm waiting for the books to put it out. But I'm waiting to see what this Jalen Hyatt receiving prop is. They haven't put it out yet. I'm waiting. I'm check FanDuel Sportsbook. I've also checked DraftKings Sportsbook. But if it's somewhere between 25 to 39.5, I'm very comfortable taking the over.
Okay. I like that. I'm gonna go with the parlay route as well. Last week, that first half under and Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown worked out. So I'm gonna try to keep. I'm gonna go with the San Fran spread, 10.5. So I like that for sure. And that Christian McCaffrey rushing yards, 81.5. Give me that. So parlay those together, plus 197. I'll take it.
Plus money is us money.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Let's move on to those streams of the week. And Greg, your quarterback stream of the week this week, brother. What do you got?
I'm going with Russell Wilson. He's going against the Miami Dolphins, 53% rostered, so right at that mark. This year, no, he's doing much better than he was last season. Through the first couple games, close to 500 passing yards, getting it down the field, even with his receivers being banged up. And just like kind of the logic I used for Mac Jones last week, I think this offense is going to have to, put some points up on the board. You saw what they did against the Commanders last week, got a big lead, and I was able to put a lot of points up on a good defense. Miami, can be suspect defense from time to time. Secondary can be vulnerable. So I think Russell Wilson can give you a QB1 performance here.
Yeah, definitely agree there, Russell Wilson. It's crazy how far we've come, right? This was like was he my guy? I don't even know what he was. I think he was my guy last year, which sounds terrible to say.
He's everyone's.
Yeah, right. I had picked him to win MVP. I picked them to win the division, go to the Super Bowl. So, now I just look at Russ and I'm like, don't want to play him. But no, this matchup is great. He's been good through 2 weeks. Obviously, we know what Miami's going to do on their side of the ball. So this has potential for a shootout. So I definitely really like this one a lot. Russell Wilson definitely in my top 12 quarterbacks this week. So
there you go.
Like that a lot. Gonna go with my quarterback stream of the week, and that is CJ Stroud, man. And I don't know, man. I feel like I'm falling in love with the rookie here. Kind of reminiscent to, what Justin Herbert did his rookie year. Not what he did, right? Obviously, Justin Herbert was a different animal in terms of what his QB performance, but just in terms of me being drawn to him as a fantasy asset, I feel like that's definitely something that's happening for me. But the rookie, he's been solid through 2 weeks, looking very sharp in the passing game. Had 240 yards passing against a tough Baltimore defense in week 1, and that was before throwing for nearly 400 yards against the Indianapolis Colts last week. The Texans have a league high neutral game pass rate. Now, when I say neutral game pass rate, I'm looking at when the score is less than 7, right? So plus or minus 6, and the first 3 quarters, and I'm excluding the last 2 minutes of each half, right? And so when you look at that, the Texans have a league high 82% neutral game pass rate. Now, very small sample size, but league average is typically around like 55%, 56%. So they are showing an enormous amount of faith in the rookie to have him drop back that much. So the volume is going to be there. I think he'll find himself a negative game script all year round. But even if you just look at the matchup here, Jacksonville has allowed the 11th most fantasy points to the quarterback position. If you look at the last week of last year and the first 2 weeks of this season so far through 2023. So all that being considered, I like Stroud to have a borderline QB1 performance this week.
Yeah, I like this play as well. Jacksonville is definitely vulnerable as well. And it's a week for quarterbacks that are banged up. Possibly no Anthony Richardson, possibly no Joe Burrow, and possibly no Bryce Young as well. Not that you were starting him, but just in 2 quarterback leagues. There's so many good quarterbacks and banged up this week.
Yeah, definitely that is true as well. So I definitely like Stroud, and like I said, he's a guy that I'm willing to hold all year long, and play him in some of these advantageous matchups for sure. All right, let's move on to the stream of the week. And Greg, why don't you tell the people who your tight end stream of the week this is? Or sorry, tight end stream of the week is this week.
Yeah, going with Taysom Hill. going in this week. Just as far as Taysom Hill, last week, Jamal Williams banged up. He had to exit the game. Kendra Miller was.
Sorry.
Do they play this week? I believe they play the Green Bay Packers. He's 13% rostered.
Yeah, you sent it to me. I was so distracted by your handsome face, Greg. I forgot to type it in the note. So
yeah, 13% rostered going against Green Bay. He had 9 rushing attempts last week for 75 yards. I mean, that's 8.3 yards per carry mark. That's really impressive, actually. I probably won't be that as high this week, but he'll definitely be involved in the passing and the rushing game this week, especially without Jamal Williams, Kendra Miller being banged up. He'll probably play this week, but I still think they'll use Taysom Hill in some capacity as well. Tony Jones is there, but they feel like they'll lean more towards people that they can rely on a little bit more. So I like Taysom Hill, and he's a tight end spot. He'll be all over the field.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Like, I'm watching this game, and I'm just like, Taysom Hill might end up being in my lineup this week if this continues, because they got to a point where the only running back that was really active at that point, taking snaps for them, was Tony Jones.
Yeah, it was Tony Jones, yeah.
And then it got to the point where Taysom Hill was lined up at running back, and they were lining him up at running back. He was taking carries. They lined him up at obviously quarterback, where he did his wildcat stuff. They lined him up at tight end, where he would run routes and not really catch the ball or get targeted. But that's not important. The important part is my man is running the ball. He averaged like 8 yards a carry. And he's probably going to get some goal line work too. So, I mean, unless you have like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, TJ Hawkinson, even Dallas Goedert I'll throw in there, Jake Ferguson, who I think has a great matchup this week.
Yep.
Is there anybody else I'm missing?
No, I think that after that, it's a crapshoot.
After that, it's a crapshoot. So give me the guy who's going to run the ball. If I told you your tight end was going to touch the ball 8 times.
Yeah.
Right? If I told you they would touch the ball 8 to 10 times, you would put them in your lineup and you wouldn't even care what the production is. Now, the difference is with Taysom, because we're not getting the receptions, right? Like in a full point PPR, if you get 5 catches for 60 yards, well, that's 11 PPR points, right? Taysom Hill really needs that touchdown to take him over the edge, because his 8 points becomes 14 points.
Right.
So yeah, Taysom Hill definitely is a guy that I will be messing around with in certain leagues because my tight end situation just won't be that great. I really wanted to drop Jake Ferguson this week, but the matchup is so juicy. I can't.
So good this week. So good.
Can't afford.
He's my other option for sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to a well you went to last week though. My tight end stream of the week is going to be Hayden Hurst, 28% rostered, gets to go up against Seattle. The Panthers face the largest spread that they faced thus far this season at 5.5. But that should lead to a pass heavier game script in what's a good matchup for Hayden Hurst. The Seattle Seahawks allow the 13th most fantasy PPR points to the tight end position going back to last year. So again, the matchup is good here. Bryce Young may be injured. He may not be able to go. Andy Dalton steps in. I don't think that's a reason to shy away from this by any means. So definitely like Hayden Hurst here in this matchup.
Yeah, I like it for sure. I think Andy Dalton may even help him even more in this situation, a little more experience and getting into his receivers. Yeah,
definitely. Greg, it seems like you were going back to the well with a defensive stream of the week this week.
Yeah, going with Cleveland, 46% roster going against Tennessee. They were able to pretty much get it done against Pittsburgh. They got 2 sacks, interception, and a fumble recovery. I think they'll, both weeks they had at least 2 sacks. I think they'll get that again, especially with the healthy Myles Garrett. And they should hold Tennessee to a decent amount of points. I don't see Tennessee being a very threatening offense, except with Derrick Henry getting an end zone. So I like it. Tennessee, give me Cleveland all day.
Yeah, I mean Cleveland defense has. I mean they're basically what's keeping them in football games right now. Their offensive side of the football is not getting it done. To the point where I almost went with Tennessee as my defensive stream of the week because I'm just like, did you watch Deshaun Watson the other day?
Yeah. Just grabbing everyone's face mask. That's about it. That was the only highlights he was doing.
Yeah. So, but I actually did not go with Tennessee as my defensive stream of the week. Actually went with Jacksonville up against Houston. And I know this sounds weird because I'm picking up CJ Stroud as my quarterback stream of the week and Jacksonville to be my defensive stream of the week, but I'm just following the process here. Jacksonville, they're 9.5-point favorites at home against a rookie quarterback. Now, Stroud has yet to throw an interception this season on 91 attempts, but he has been sacked on 10.8% of his dropbacks. That's the 8th most in the NFL. I think the Jags get a nice floor between some sacks, and I don't know, just kind of have a feeling they get one off the rookie this week. So Jacksonville, they were my second top option. Actually, no, they were third behind Seattle, assuming Seattle was going to play Bryce Young. But Kansas City is like by far my top option. Like if you can get Kansas City, please do, because not only did they play, they're 12.5-point favorites this week against Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears, but then they're probably going to be like double-digit favorites next week when they play the Jets. So you can get two good weeks of a defensive stream from just one defense in Kansas City.
Yeah, no, Jacksonville's had a nice little schedule to start the year. They held Kansas City to a respectable amount as well. So I like Jacksonville as one of those, sneaky defenses all season long.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on and breaking down some of these games here. Before we do break down this Cleveland Browns versus Tennessee Titans game, we do have a question from the Smitty. How do you feel, and he corrected himself, but how do you feel about Kareem Hunt? I've seen a lot of interesting takes about this on Twitter and just floating around. I mean, people are afraid. People obviously were excited to go pick up Jerome Ford with the injury to Nick Chubb. Then there was all this news circulating that they might bring in Kareem Hunt for a tryout. Then they brought him in for a visit. Then they immediately signed him. Like you talked about, Greg, Kareem Hunt knows the system. He's familiar with the scheme and the players and the coaches, so it should be somewhat of a seamless transition. Now the question is, how does this impact Jerome Ford? And what I will say, and it's a popular take that I've seen floated around, and it does make a lot of sense. The Browns had both Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt in their building going into this offseason. And whether it was contract related, performance related, or some combination of both, they chose not to bring back Kareem Hunt and instead chose to bring back Jerome Ford to be the primary backup. Now, you could have said that was dependent on the role, things of that nature. But I do think Jerome Ford, it was never a foregone conclusion, right? I never thought Jerome Ford was going to come in and take all the work that Nick Chubb brought in, right? Like that he was taking.
Yeah. Pierre Strong was like definitely a name we were going to add.
Right. You were going to add him as like, because maybe he was going to see 30, 40% of the work, right?
Yeah.
I think Kareem Hunt comes in and takes that 30 to 40% of that work, right? I think he takes some of the pass game work away from Jerome Ford, but I still do believe this is Jerome Ford's backfield until the Browns tell us otherwise. Greg, I don't know what your thoughts are on any of that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. I mean, best case scenario, you're trying to look at him as a Jerick McKinnon type role, where Antonio Gibson type role. They both haven't been producing this year, so that's kind of what I think Kareem Hunt's role will be: pass catching, third down back, someone like that. So I see him probably as like to start. I would RB4, RB high, and RB 3 category for me.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, he's not a guy that I was prioritizing on waivers last night. I mean, it was kind of a tricky situation. It's like he hadn't even signed, and you were gonna sign him off waivers under the assumption that he would sign, and you don't even know what his role was going to be. So he's a guy that I really didn't try to prioritize getting on waivers yesterday.
Yeah, same.
All right, let's talk about the game now. So we've got the 1-1 Tennessee Titans traveling to Cleveland to take on the 1-1 Cleveland Browns. This game has a 41-point total, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, where the Cleveland Browns are 3-point favorites. I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to take Tennessee to cover. I'm also going to take Tennessee to win the game. Greg, what about you?
I'm gonna take the under, but I'm gonna take Cleveland to cover and Cleveland to win.
Any faith in this Browns offense, right? We know that the Tennessee Titans, their pass defense is susceptible. They do not allow a lot on the ground, but they, like I said, they can be beat through the air. Are you investing at all this week in the Browns passing attack?
No, definitely not. I mean, Amari Cooper, I think, has a tough matchup, but so I would probably see him. In a lot of leagues, some leagues you're going to be forced to have to play him, but I kind of downgrade him to more of a wide receiver 3 in this matchup. And just Deshaun Watson in this offense just has not looked good, and it's whole regime since he's been there. It just hasn't worked out yet.
Yeah, I want no parts of Deshaun. He looks broken, and I can't like it's so wild, like the range of outcomes it seems like with him on a play-to-play basis. Like you could literally get anything. And then he just finishes with like 12 or 14 fantasy points, and you're just like, okay, right? Yeah. So like, I don't really have much faith in him. Amari Cooper though looked good on Monday, considering everything that was happening around him. Right? They said he was not gonna play. He suffered a groin injury in practice on Saturday, and then he said he woke up on Monday feeling better, and he went out there and he had a pretty good game. So I do like Cooper as a wide receiver too, but I think that's about as far as I'm going to go with the Browns passing attack. It would be Amari Cooper. In terms of the running back position, Jerome Ford, he's an RB3 for me this week. I think you would hope that he sees enough volume to creep into RB2 territory, maybe get a touchdown, but I will have him down as an RB3 in a tough matchup this week.
Yep.
And then on the Tennessee side, Derrick Henry. Is that it?
I think that's it. The Cleveland corners are really good. I mean, George Pickens was able to get some last week, but other than that, I don't think it's a good matchup for D-Hop. I wasn't even considering like another like Westbrook-Ikhine or Traylon Burks. It would be D-Hop or no one else. So I think D-Hop is again with that. I would start Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is highly more rated, I think, in this game than D-Hop. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I honestly have it written down. Like everybody's got a bad matchup, right? Like even Derrick Henry himself has a bad matchup. But
he's put in the work in his career to overcome that.
Yeah, you're banking on, hey, they're gonna give Derrick Henry the ball 15 to 18 times.
Yeah.
And maybe one of those 15 to 18 he falls in the end zone. Maybe he stiff arms a dude to outer space. Like you're just hoping on one of those things happening. Yeah, I'm with you on D-Hop and Burks. I mean, I have them both as wide receiver 3s. Like, Burks had a solid game last week against the Chargers. I mean, most of that came on one reception. But him and D-Hop are comparable, range of outcomes for me in this game. But I both see them as I see them both as wide receiver 3s, honestly. All right, let's move on to the next game. I'm assuming we have nothing else on this game, right?
No.
Let's move on to this next game. The 0-2 Los Angeles Chargers to Minnesota to take on the 0-2 Minnesota Vikings. This game has a 54.5-point total where the Chargers are 1.5-point favorites. This has got to be the most exciting game.
For sure. Absolutely.
Between a winless – I mean – regardless of what the record is, this is probably the most exciting game on the slate.
Can we say a tie? Like, is this possible? I feel a tie happening in this game.
Do not put that evil on me, bro. I'm not trying to sit here all year saying the 0-2-1 Minnesota Vikings. I'm not trying to do that all year. But yeah, I mean, just even between winless teams, like this has to be the most exciting game that you've seen between winless teams that started after week 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, Greg, where are you with this matchup?
Yeah, give me the over. Oh, I don't for who to win though. Give me the over. Give me Minnesota to win, and give me Minnesota to cover.
Yeah, I am right there with you. I'm just curious, like what FanDuel
This is it.
Sportsbook. No, like
Oh,
what's the how much is it? What are the odds of a tie in this game? Like, what are the odds of a tie in this game? Can I?
you know what I'm saying? Is this Brandon Staley's job week?
Oh, is this the job week? I don't know,
Yeah.
man.
Like when is that week here?
I honestly don't know.
Man.
Like, I
Um,
can't.
are you actually trying to look?
Yeah,
Let's see.
I'm legitimately trying to look. I can't.
Mm, try to find it myself, but I don't know. The point is start everybody though. That's a fact.
Oh well, if you just say, "Will there be overtime?" That's plus
Oh
four.
yeah.
That's plus 1480.
Okay.
So,
Oh, you got Los Angeles Chargers ties plus 3,200 and
oh
Minnesota
really?
Vikings ties plus 3,100. I don't know why they're different, but it's
That's
weird.
weird.
Yeah,
You
very
see
weird.
that? You see that on the
On FanDuel.
on
It says
FanDuel?
first half winner slash end of regulation parlay. Oh, it's a first half. It's the first
Uh
half end of regulation parlay.
got it. Okay. So yeah, we'll find it. We'll post it maybe tomorrow or something, but need to find out what the tie what it is for the tie. Just gotta take it just for fun, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Just for fun. But let's talk about the fantasy stuff here. Austin Eckler, as of a report that I just got right now on Twitter,
yeah.
did not
Excellent.
practice today. So assuming he's not healthy, if he is healthy, I'm assuming he's in your lineup RB1, correct?
Hmm.
If he's not in your lineup, Joshua Kelly. Any interest after the rough performance last week against Tennessee?
I mean, yeah, based off value, is saying I think he's got to be in some lineups, but I think it's a RB3.
Remember what happens, Greg. We've gone through this
I
like
know
every year.
every time
Every time.
Kelly's been through this, man. He's been through this.
Nah, but it's the backup doesn't come through week one.
Oh yeah, true. And then the following week he does come
The
through.
following
He does
week
come
he
through.
comes through. So just based on that logic,
And the fact Minnesota got just ran on last week,
ran
just
on.
all over, back and forth,
And
back and forth.
you can't run on Tennessee. So
Yeah,
what if it was just a function of him not being able, just him having a bad matchup?
yeah, I hope so. Well, this is the week. It's got to be
This
week.
is
So
week.
yeah, I think he's got some RB2 upside.
Yeah. Well, we'll stop at RB2, so we don't want to set the bar
Yeah,
too high.
I would start RB2. Yeah.
But Josh Kelly, you can get it done, man. And then Herbert, Keenan Allen, QB1, wide receiver 1,
Yep.
Mike Williams, wide receiver 2.
Yep. Strong wide receiver 2.
Yeah. And then on the Minnesota side, I mean, Cousins, Jefferson, Hawk, all ones at their
Addison.
position.
Yeah.
Is this a redemption week for Alexander Madison?
I think same. He's kind of got like the same output for as Josh Kelly. I think he's a low end RB2 for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna
But
have
I
him.
was saying Addison though. That's a play as well. Yes.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. Gotta save the
Yeah.
best for last. Addison,
Yeah.
wide receiver 3 with some wide
True.
receiver
True.
2
True.
upside.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we do have to it's like we talked about last week on Thursday Night Football, right? Addison is playing less snaps than KJ Osborne. Like last week, I think Addison did his work on just 2 receptions.
Mm-hmm.
So your hope is that the Vikings see how wildly efficient he is and say we need to give him more playing time. Because right now we're flying in the danger zone a little bit because we're playing him every week. I mean, it's only been 2 weeks, but the usage from a routes and a snap perspective is not there. But he's just being productive with his opportunities.
Right.
So it is, one thing to note, but hey, continue to play him.
Yeah, keep him rolling out there, especially with this advantageous matchup. Even in deep leagues, Joshua Palmer may be a name to throw out there as well on the Chargers side.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's move on to this next matchup here. One that I will be present and accounted for. The 0-2 New England Patriots travel to MetLife Stadium to take on the 1-1 New York Jets. This game has a 37.5 point total.
Oof.
The New England Patriots are 2.5 point road favorites. Greg, did you know that last year in 2 games against the New England Patriots, the Jets defense had 12 sacks and allowed, I think it was 2 offensive touchdowns.
Man,
they lost both those games.
Will the streak end? Will the streak end?
The New England Patriots have beaten the Jets 14 straight times.
That's 7 years.
The last time the Jets have beaten the New England Patriots, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, and Zach Wilson were 15 years old. I'm sorry, but it's going to be 15 straight. I'm taking the under, taking the Patriots to cover, taking the Patriots to win. As sad as it makes me to be that I'm going to be in MetLife witnessing another loss to this football team, let's save this for another show, save this for another day. This is not the time right now, but I'm beyond irked by this. Greg, what say you?
Yeah, I agree with you here. Under, give me a pass to cover, give me a pass to win.
You know how badly I wanted to come on here and say bury them? Just bury them. Make them 0-3 and just bury them. But it's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Greg, Hunter Henry, tight end 1?
Yeah, low and tight end 1. Yeah, he falls into it.
Ramondre Stevenson and RB2? Some RB1 upside?
Yeah, high in RB2, some RB1 upside, yep.
Is there anyone else you're interested in playing on the New England Patriots?
Nope.
For the Jets, Breece Hall, is he in your lineup?
Is Nathaniel Hackett going to give him the ball? If so, then he's in my lineup. I think he's an RB2 though.
I think he's an RB2 as well. Robert Saleh did talk about Breece needing to get the ball some more.
Nice.
This isn't a question, right? We've been through this with Breece Hall, right? Where like he was the most talented running back in the backfield last year, and it was just a matter of like, hey, let's get him the touches. And they quickly realized by like week 4, they're like, okay, he's the best shot that we have. Let's get him on the field.
Yeah.
This is more of a matter of like, we don't want to overwork the kid because he's coming back from a serious injury. So it's just a matter of he could be good at any moment now. And I think that this week, after the 4-touch debacle, after you have Robert Saleh saying they should have played him more, that he wishes they got him the ball more, which I mean, we hear coaches say that all the time. I wish we could have got him the ball. It's like, well, dude, aren't you the boss? Arch, it's like the CEO of a company saying, wish I could give myself a raise. Like, yeah. So anyway, Breece Hall, RB2, Garrett Wilson flying dangerously close to the sun with his wild efficiency, right? I like to play the game. Take the touchdown away. What does the day look like? If you take the touchdown away from Garrett Wilson last week, we're looking at 2 catches for 83 yards. That's 10.3 PPR points. If you did it the week before, we're looking at 5 catches for 34 yards. That's 8.4 PPR points. Wildly different than the 14 and 16 fantasy points that he actually scored over that time span. So again, we're flying dangerously close to the sun in terms of his wild efficiency right now, but the volume is still there. Are you playing him this week?
As a low-end flex, yeah.
Yeah, wide receiver 3 is where I have him. A wide receiver 3 is where I have him. So just inside my top 36.
Yeah,
But like you said, he's in flex territory for me.
it's tough. I mean, if you could find a better how to play, maybe because that's going to be the goal for I would. And I'm thinking Bill Belichick is going to try to take him away for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. We have a question. Bronson Howe is saying trade AJ Brown and Brandon Cooks for Devontae Adams. Greg, what do you think about that?
I probably wouldn't do that, in my opinion. Yeah, I think the Eagles offense has a lot of room for growth and upside with AJ Brown and as well as the Dallas offense. They both have shown kind of their best game offensively. They had two tough matchups start defensively on the Cowboys side, so I think you're going to get more points as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. Like I don't like AJ Brown to Devontae Adams isn't like that is an upgrade, but I don't see it as that much of an upgrade that I want to give up what I believe in. I think it comes down to how you feel about Brandon Cooks. I think Brandon Cooks could be a solid wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 rest of season. So I just don't see how your team gets better, right? I mean, I know we talk about aggregation of marginal gains, but this is a very marginal gain, I think, in my mind, from what you have to give up to what you're getting.
Yeah. Unless these other two, like other than AJ Brown and Brandon Cooks, you have a really good wide receiver too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a really good wide receiver 2, take that other really good wide receiver 2, package them with Brandon Cooks, and then go get Devontae Adams or Jamar Chase. That's the one I'll keep saying until I'm blue in the face, and this face ain't gonna get blue. So, all right, let's move on to this next game here. We have the 1-1 Washington or Buffalo Bills rather traveling to Washington to take on the 2-0 Washington Commanders. This game has a 44.5 point total, where the Buffalo Bills are 6.5 point favorites. Greg, where are you with this matchup?
I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take the Commanders to cover at home, but I'm gonna take the Bills to win.
Why do we see all these games the same way? I'm taking the over, taking the Commanders to cover, but I will take the Bills to win. Josh Allen bounced back in a major way. QB1 again this week. Stephon Diggs, I think he's a wide receiver 1. I think the question really comes down to how do you view these auxiliary pieces in the Buffalo offense, right? So James Cook, how are you treating him this week, Greg?
Commanders, I think he's a RB2, low on RB2.
Yeah, I'm going to have him as a mid RB2. Gabe Davis bounced back last week with a solid game, solid performance. Is he in your lineup this week as a wide receiver 2 or 3?
More of a 3. Commanders have a solid secondary, so I'm going to have him there.
Yeah, I've got him as a wide receiver 3 as well. And the question is, both these tight ends seem to be playable between Kincaid and Knox. Are you playing one over the other? I know Knox seemed to be banged up this week with an injury, but no concerns over his status in the game.
Yeah, I feel like this will be back and forth for you. I really don't have more confidence of one over the other. They're kind of both in that tight end 2 territory for me.
I'm going to just consistently lean Kincaid here. I mean, just look at Dawson Knox's stat lines, right? The same way I say, if you take the touchdown away, the same thing you could do is add a touchdown, right? Like Dawson Knox's stat line last week, was it like two catches or something like that for 5 or 10 yards and a touchdown? Not really great. But Kincaid, 6 for 6, 43 yards. You add the touchdown to him, you're looking at a 16-point day versus the 10-point day that he had. So I will consistently lean Kincaid in that realm. But on the Washington side, Brian Robinson RB1 season.
Brian Robinson, low on RB1. Bills rush defense is vulnerable. I like him. I like him there. I think he be the main option, and then Josh Dotson as far as receiving wise, because Jahan Dotson, because Terry McLaurin is going to see a lot of Trey White.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have Terry as a wide receiver 2. I think the volume is still going to be there. I do understand the matchup is tough. Jahan Dotson will be a wide receiver 3 for me. Sam Howell, any interest? I mean, he's been solid through 2 weeks. has finished as a borderline QB2 in both of his matchups. Any interest in him this week against the Buffalo Bills?
In 2 quarterback leagues, I think so. And honestly, might have to be forced to start him in some regular format leagues just because of the injuries to quarterbacks this week. So yeah, if you couldn't get a Russell Wilson, couldn't get a CJ Stroud, you might have to, lean on someone like Sam Howell.
Yeah, definitely agree with that one there. I mean, and I think you said it. I like Sam Howell. I mean, what he's shown thus far has been pretty solid. I mean, he's willing to make plays with his legs, willing to throw the ball down the field. I think he's got a good ecosystem around him. So I think he can make
There's
plays.
the enemy, man.
Yeah, man. Shout out to the enemy.
Yes, sir.
The enemy is my friend.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, let's move on to the Houston Texans traveling 0-2 Houston Texans traveling Jacksonville to take on the 1-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. This game has a 44.5 point total, where the Jags are 9.5 point home favorites. I am going to take the under here. I am going to take Houston to cover, but I will take Jacksonville to win. Greg, where are you with this matchup?
I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take Houston to cover and Jacksonville to win.
So, Greg, Nico Collins, wide receiver one rest of season, right?
Rev him up, yes, sir. Nico Collins all the way, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have him top 15 rest of the season. I don't see how he falls out of that with the target volume he's getting and how efficient he's been. But it seems like Robert Woods, wide receiver 2.
Robert Woods and even Tank Dell, like they're both.
I was going to bring them up. Tank Dell, wide receiver 3. I mean, that's kind of how I have him. Nico Collins is a 1, Woods is a 2, and then Tank Dell is a 3 this week.
Yeah, I agree with that totally.
And then CJ Stroud, are you on board?
Yeah, absolutely. If you like all these receivers, you got to like the quarterback.
Can't get the pancakes and not the syrup.
Yep.
Dameon Pierce, though, I think there's a conversation that has to be had here, right?
Yeah.
I think for the most part, people have been blindly starting him as an RB1, RB2, but the production has really been closer to RB3. And I think one of the things we were banking on the most with Dameon Pierce was the volume, and he's not even really getting that. He's not operating as the true workhorse in this backfield. He's splitting some time with Dare Ogunbowale as well as Devin Singletary. Are you committing to Dameon Pierce as an RB3 this week and hoping this kind of turns around, or are you going to look elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, he's 11 and 15 carries in the first 2 weeks. That's decent for, I guess, an RB2 area. But he's really doing nothing with it right now. I mean, Baltimore and Indy aren't like the best matchup, but they're not like super tough either. Jacksonville, I would say, is in that kind of same realm. So it'd be tough for me to have confidence in him as an RB2. I think he's more of an RB3 category.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, he's one of those guys you just kind of hold your nose and you play him, right? Whatever he gets, he gets. You're not going to find a better option at this point in the season. So, yeah, it's it's not great, but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
On the Jacksonville side, we talked about this Houston pass defense. What they were able to do. I mean, Anthony Richardson had the big stat line last week, but that was because he had 2 rushing touchdowns. Lamar played terribly against them 2 weeks ago. Do you have confidence in Trevor Lawrence to have a solid performance this week as a QB1?
I do have the over, so I think he can fall into that 13-14 range, QB 13-14 range, and get it to his guys. Really, I think bounces back a little bit. And Christian Kirk, he had a huge week last week. You were mentioning like man defense does help him out a lot, so we'll see how that comes into play this week as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on Lawrence. I think borderline like QB 14, QB 15. I think is where he'll probably settle in. I really like this to be a Travis Etienne game, right? Houston, while they are not great against, they're not great against the, while they're great against the pass, they're not great against the run.
Right.
And so I think Travis Etienne has potentially a big game here, as
Yeah.
well as I think Tank Bigsby could be in play as like an RB3 or 4 in deeper leagues. I think Evan Ingram has a ton of upside as tight end 1 in this matchup. I do like Ridley to bounce back and finish in at least wide receiver 2 territory, if not wide receiver 1. And I would go Christian Kirk as a wide receiver 3 over Zay Jones just this week.
Yeah, hopefully Trevor Lawrence can get some of those end zone passes just in the end zone, like not towards the end, like the back.
Yeah, not the back line,
Yeah.
Let's not try to kill Calvin Ridley by running him into the goalpost. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah, I saw that too. Like, oh no,
like,
not this way. Not this way.
All right, let's move on.
Just thought it was a safety probably and just tried to split it between the safety in the corner or something.
Let's move on to this next matchup here. We've got the 1-1 Indianapolis Colts traveling to Baltimore to take on the 2-0 Baltimore Ravens. This game has a 44.5 point total, where the Baltimore Ravens are 7.5 point favorites. In terms of the injuries here, Anthony Richardson remains a concussion protocol, so something to monitor here this week. Definitely want to make arrangements there if you are the Anthony Richardson manager. But Greg, where are you in terms of this game here?
I'm gonna take the under, but I'm gonna take Baltimore to cover and Baltimore to win.
I'm going with the over, but I will take Baltimore to cover, Baltimore to win. I mean, this is like we've attacked Indianapolis.
Got to. You have to. Justice Hill also popped up with an injury today as well. So
who?
Justice Hill.
Oh, I did not catch that.
Popped up with a toe injury. So I'm not the rev up Gus Edwards as a strong RB2.
Okay. Well, I mean, hopefully they don't even need to run the football because Lamar's just slang that thing all over the yard.
Yeah.
This is like he's a bona fide QB1, right? Mark Andrews, we know, tight end 1. This has got to be a big Zay Flowers game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Got to be a big Zay Flowers game. He should eat. I think he's got some wide receiver 1 potential, but I'm gonna rank him as a strong wide receiver 2.
I could feel it, Greg. I feel it. One of us is gonna do it.
Yeah.
One of us is gonna do it. I feel it. Gus Edwards, like you just said, if Justice Hill misses time, fire him up as an RB2. If Justice Hill is playing, he'll probably be an RB3. On the Indianapolis side, does Anthony Richardson's presence change anything for you? His presence or lack thereof, rather.
No, I don't think so. I think more, for people that don't have him, they can't start him. So, because he can create points himself without relying on any of his receivers with his legs. So, I think doesn't change anything. I still like Zach Moss as a good play as RB2. And you're playing Michael Pittman as a kind of a wide receiver 3 with some wide receiver 2 upside.
Yeah, I mean, like we always say with wide receivers, man, if they're going to see volume, just give them to me. If you're going to see 10, 15 targets, I'm going to play you. I don't really care who the matchup is, unless it's like Darrelle Revis. Like, just as long as you see that volume, just give it to me, man.
Yeah.
Anything else on this matchup before we move on, Greg?
No.
2-0 Atlanta Falcons travel to Detroit to take on the 1-1 Detroit Lions. This game has a 45.5 point total, where the Detroit Lions are 3-point favorites at home here. In terms of this game, I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take Detroit to cover. I'm going to take Detroit to win. I think I went out of order here, but Greg, what about you?
In this game, I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna keep rolling with your Falcons, man. I'm gonna take the Falcons to cover and Falcons to win. I don't know how, but the NFC South champions possibly. The NFC South is like better than we thought they were gonna be for sure.
Hey, look, I picked Atlanta to win this division, so I'm not surprised by any means. I'm slightly surprised. I'm not gonna hold you, but Atlanta's they're playing their brand of football. Not surprised by how they're doing it at all by any means. I was just surprised that it's working every week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like Detroit to cover this one. But on the Atlanta side, I mean, I think this is probably the worst defense that they have faced to this point in terms of the Detroit Lions. Bijan Robinson, bona fide RB1 for sure.
Yep.
Tyler Algier, he's
RB2.
RB2,
Right?
RB3, right? He's going to see the
Yep.
volume. He's consistently seeing the volume. Tyler Algier or Matt Breida?
Tyler Algier, without a doubt.
Tyler Algier, without a doubt, right? He's going to see 16 carries. Like, there's no guarantee Matt Breida even sees 16 carries. Drake London is your wide receiver 2?
Yes, yeah. Lone wide receiver 2. And that's it.
That's it. I don't even mention his name anymore. We don't even talk about him.
I'm here for it.
You know, pretty soon we're just gonna start talking about him as a Jag because nobody was playing him anyway.
Right.
Until he makes it to the stud list, because then
that one week,
I'm back. On the Detroit side, Amon-Ra St. Brown seems to be dealing with a case of turf toe, potential toe injury. So firing up our Josh Reynolds.
We are firing up Josh Reynolds. Even if Amon-Ra St. Brown was playing, he's got to be in that close, basically that wide receiver 2 territory. And I think without Amon-Ra, he's bumped up even more. Strong wide receiver 2, some wide receiver 1 upside.
Jared Goff QB1 this week.
Yeah, Jared Goff QB1. Yeah. The running backs though. Sam Laporta, I like it. Tight end 1.
And you're going to talk about running backs. Talk to me, Greg.
Yeah, no David Montgomery, most likely. So Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is bumped up as a strong RB2. Craig Reynolds, I think, is going to be in the RB3 category because they're going to give him carries.
Do want to highlight, and this is me doing the whole trying to get in the brain of a coach thing, but Bam Knight, remember him?
I do. He was productive for the Jets last year.
He was on the practice squad. When David Montgomery went down, they called him up to the active roster. Now, if you look at those running backs, there's only one of them that's built like David Montgomery, and it's Bam Knight. So does that change how you potentially feel about Craig Reynolds here?
It does. I mean, Craig Reynolds did do well in some DeAndre Swift relief last year, late season. So they both can be productive. So yeah, I mean, maybe they both get at 5 to 10 carries. And Jahmyr Gibbs kind of holds down the pass catching abilities. I could see Jahmyr Gibbs getting again close to 8 receptions in that area. Yeah. They like sticking to this mold where they have Jahmyr Gibbs as just pure pass catching running back and then running the ball with Montgomery, but they'll probably split the carries between those two then.
Yeah, I agree there. Let's move on. Anything else on this game before we move on?
No.
Let's move on to the 2-0 New Orleans Saints traveling to Green Bay to take on the 1-1 Green Bay Packers. This game has a 43.5-point total according to FanDuel Sportsbook, where the Green Bay Packers are 2-point favorites at home. Greg, where are you?
I'm going to take the under Green Bay to cover and Green Bay to win.
I also take the under, also take Green Bay to cover, also taking Green Bay to win. Aaron Jones.
That was my question. If Aaron Jones is playing, I might lean towards that over, actually.
Let's see. I have not seen anything on Mr. Aaron Jones. Not practicing today.
Okay. Yeah, I'll stick to the under.
I mean, we'll definitely have to monitor because it could be one of those situations where he doesn't practice these next couple of days, but maybe he practices on Friday in some sort of capacity. So definitely something to note there.
Christian Watson, he's back.
Christian Watson is back. So That being said, how into the Green Bay passing attack are you this week going up against this New Orleans defense?
So Marshawn Lattimore, it's a tough way to come back to. If your first week you get to see Marshawn Lattimore, I think it's fair to put Christian Watson more in that low end wide receiver 2 territory right now, and then I think that'll be kind of where it is. Romeo Doubs, wide receiver 3 with some wide receiver 2 upside, and then Jaden Reed kind of in that same territory as well. I think all 3 of them can be involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man, because we know Christian Watson's like superpowers. So tough to say, hey, wait and see with Christian Watson.
I'm starting. I'm definitely starting.
Would you start Rashid Shaheed or Christian Watson?
I think I'd go Christian Watson, unless you're in a kick return league, because she does get some kick return yards as well. Some punts and some kick returns.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It really is tough because it's like it makes you wonder. Like New Orleans has been good against quarterbacks, but then you also think about, well, who have they played? It's
Yeah.
like they've played Bryce Young and Ryan Tannehill, and so is it like, are they a good pass defense or are those bad quarterbacks that they've played?
It's definitely the best offense they've played in general. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it also makes you wonder, can Jordan Love keep up his wild efficiency, right? They've scored 7 touchdowns on the year.
His touchdown rate is ridiculous right now.
6 of them have come via him passing the football. So can they keep that up? And it just like all these things come into question. So for that, if you don't have to go to Green Bay's passing offense, I probably wouldn't. But on the New Orleans side, like Olave is a wide receiver 1. I think Michael Thomas really showed that he is the wide receiver 2 in this offense. I mean, he's out targeted Rashid Shaheed through 2 weeks. Shaheed was just Shaheed had the big play in the touchdown the week before, but in terms of just the sheer volume and production, it seems that Michael Thomas has got the leg up there.
Yeah, I agree.
Tony Jones, any interest there? I mean, he obviously had the 2 rushing touchdowns, but Kendre Miller seems to be a full go this week, the rookie draft pick from TCU. None of this really matters after this week because Alvin Kamara comes back. But
Taysom Hill, man. Taysom Hill. He's the running back.
Taysom Hill. So,
yeah.
Would you play? Okay, I have a question for you, Greg. Would you play Taysom Hill over both the running backs in your flex?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, look, you were better than me because I'm like, nah, but I do like Taysom Hill again over every tight end that you're starting this week. That's not the 5 or 6 that we mentioned. I like Taysom Hill a lot. Anything else that we want to add to this game before we close it out, Greg?
No.
All right, the last and final 1 p.m. game that we're going to break down. The 0-2 Denver Broncos traveling to Miami to take on the 2-0 Miami Dolphins. This game has a 48.5-point total, where the Dolphins are 6.5-point home favorites. I'm taking the over, taking the Dolphins to cover. I'm taking the Dolphins to win. Greg, you seem like you're nodding in agreement.
You're definitely with the over. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna take Dolphins cover, Dolphins win. I think this is a really good football team, man. I don't know, man. It might be AFC Championship, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, man, if there's anything I hate more than the Bills and the Patriots, it's the Dolphins, which is as crazy as it sounds. I despise the Dolphins. So, I have to admit that they're a good football team, and they're a really good football team. And
yeah,
they look like the favorites to win the AFC East right now. So, yeah. Anyway, Russell Wilson, QB1 in this matchup.
Yep.
Cortland Sutton has been operating as a wide receiver 2. Jerry Jeudy is making his way back. Do you see that tilting at any point this game? Or are you Sutton over Jeudy?
I'm a big Sutton guy. I think I just love his floor right now. He's got a good floor. You're kind of add the touchdown 2 type performance. He's definitely going to give you a safe play, safe wide receiver 3 numbers. And then if he gets that touchdown, he's going to finish strong wide receiver 2. So I'm playing him.
Javonte Williams, RB2.
Yeah, RB2. Seems like they haven't really involved P. Ryan as much as we thought they would, but still stash, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, P. Ryan had his opportunities in week 1, but then week 2 came by, only had one rush attempt. Did play, I believe it was more snaps than Javonte Williams did, but Javonte Williams touched the ball 12 times, and Samaje Perine only carried it once. I think was targeted in the pass game once or twice. But sorry. I was wondering if I was getting news here, but any interest in, I guess, on the Miami side, Tua QB1, Tyreek Hill wide receiver 1.
Yep. Hopefully Waddle can go.
Hopefully Waddle can go. He's dealing with the concussion concussion protocol. So if he goes, high end wide receiver 2.
Yep.
Raheem Mostert, RB1.
Yeah, lone RB1. Yeah, I think so.
Durham Smythe. Are we going to that? Well, I mean, had some targets, was not uberly productive, but middle of the road at the tight end position last week. Any interest here?
Yeah, I think he's in that jumble that you can play for in streaming category, especially if Waddle can't go. That bumps him up.
This is also true. Yeah, if Waddle can't go, that definitely bumps him up the receiver pecking order. All right, we are going to close this out, but we do have some follow-ups on some of these questions that were asked to us. Bronson asked, he did say his other wide receivers are Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jordan Addison, D-Hop, Michael Thomas, and so you are really
in a 4-team league? Like, that's crazy.
Or either that or his running backs are Matt Breida and Ken Miller.
Word. Wow.
So he's asking, would you rather get Devontae or Olave or just hold AJ Brown? I would just hold AJ
Brown. Yeah, I think so. I think Devontae's, I have him a little slightly higher than AJ, but yeah, I hold on to AJ Brown.
Yeah. Seems like you're a Saints fan though, just based on the Avi. So if you really want Olave, you could probably get Olave plus for AJ Brown. I know it's a lot more fun when you get to root for your guys. So
true.
I wouldn't know, being a Jets fan. It's not often I get to root for my players in fantasy, but
you had 4 snaps. You had 4 snaps.
4 snaps.
Yeah.
4 snaps. Anyway, hey, but Greg, in those 4 snaps, you and I have more passing yards as New York Jets than Aaron Rodgers does.
True.
Actually, we have just as many.
Yeah.
Unless we take the net, because the sacks count, I think. Anyway, Duffy, is it true that Amon-Ra has turf toe? If so, what should I do with him? I'm not a doctor, but what I've read is that he possibly has turf toe. And what you do with him is you stick him in your lineup and you pray and hope that he gets you 80 to 90% of what he is.
Yeah, Jared Goff has been playing really good this year. That's his number one guy. If he's active, of course. You got to stay with him and play him.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're closing this one out. Greg will not be with us tomorrow, but I will be here. Got you covered. May not have a you're watching live, maybe YouTube. We'll see y'all tomorrow. I'll see y'all tomorrow. You'll see Greg next week when we break down the waiver show. Greg, anything you want to say to the people for the final time this week before we close this one out?
Just hoping the Giants can cover, man. And just praying. Let's get this cover. Good luck to the people out there. Hopefully we get these dubs. Yeah, let's do it. Week 3.
Week 3. Wait, Duffy's coming back with a question. Should I trade Amon-Ra and Flowers for Tyreek Hill?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Do that. Do that. And that'll be our parting gift. Have a good one, everybody. We love you. We appreciate y'all. Get those Thursday night players out your flex. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
We out.